Now that we learned a lot about page pre-rendering and data pre-fetching in various ways, I want to conclude this course section by having another look at client-side data fetching. So basically the opposite of what we did thus far, where we talked about fetching and preparing data on the server or during the build process. When building Next.js applications, you will sometimes have data which just doesn't need to be pre-rendered or which can't be pre-rendered. Examples would be data that changes with high frequency. So for example, if you have stock data which you show on some page and that data changes multiple times every second, pre-fetching and pre-rendering might not make too much sense because you will always see outdated data when you visit this page. So in such a case, just showing a loading spinner when you visit the page and then fetching the very latest data for you and maybe updating that data in the background then might be the best user experience. Another example would be highly user-specific data. For example, the last orders in an online shop. If you are in your account, in your user profile, and you view that data, that could be an example where we don't really need to pre-render the page. Definitely not for search engines, because they won't see your private profile, and also not necessarily for the user experience, because if we go to this page, we might be more than fine with just waiting a second for the data to be loaded on the client. And having a quicker navigation to the page might be more important than having the data available right from the start. Or consider the case that you have partial data. So let's say you have like a dashboard page with lots of different pieces of data, lots of different kinds of data. In such a case, loading all these different pieces which make up the overall dashboard might just slow down the request if you do that on the server. And pre-rendering it statically during build time might also not make sense because it's personal data or because it's changing a lot. So in such a scenario, it would again probably make sense to fetch that data on the client, so from inside the regular React app once a user navigated to that page. And these are just some examples, but there can be use cases like those here where pre-fetching the data and pre-generating the page with that data might just not really work or might not make too much sense. And in such cases, it might make the most sense to use the traditional approach of writing some code in your React components, maybe with useEffect and fetch, to fetch data from some API from inside the client-side React application. So not from inside getStaticProps or getServerSideProps, but really from inside the component so that this code only runs once the code executes in the client, not on the server. And therefore that's what we're now going to take a closer look at.